Any declarations of conflict of interest? None? Okay, we have the agenda. You have for A, B, C, D, E, F. Sir, Mr. Kelly, do you have something to add or delete?
Just one thing, Your Worship. We do have a solicitor coming at 6 o'clock, so whatever we're doing, we need to break at that time frame, and then whatever's not done, we can come back out and finish after that, Your Worship.
Okay. Councillor Ramsey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Under the agenda, would there be a possibility to move F to C and put C down? Because we're looking at, what we're looking at is the purchases, but we're still not finalized with the enterprise thing. Like, are we still going to go ahead with that and then deal with enterprise after? Do you understand what I'm trying to say, Ernie?
No, I think Mr. Kelly will concur is that tender already went out, so we have to honor that tender.
Two different things.
We'll have to honor it.
So we do, okay.
It's still going to go ahead,
It's
yes.
not the same.
But hopefully the enterprise fleet issue will be
It's different issue.
dealt with
Okay,
tonight
thank
and
you.
move on.
Thank you.
Right, Mr. Kelly?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay, sir. Good. Okay, so discussion, Councillor Tweel.
Yeah.
A, B, C, D, E, or F?
C, Public Works Resolution, where's
Yeah.
Charlie Street?
Mr. Adams?
That probably be talking about C.
Yeah,
Mr.
well,
Adams?
it's not on the agenda.
Mr. Adams? Could you address that? C, vehicle fleet purchase, used asphalt paver, Garfield Street reconstruction. Is the Hurley Street issue going to be brought up under that discussion?
Not today, no.
Okay.
Well, the resolution won't be brought forward. We can discuss what happened at the closing time, but there's no resolution to be brought forward today.
But under the Garfield Street, can you explain why
Yeah,
we're at?
absolutely. Yeah, we can talk about that.
Councillor Tweel, last question.
Yeah, why is it on the agenda?
Well, no. He'll explain that when we get to it. C, Garfield Street reconstruction. Correct, sir?
That's correct.
Yeah. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, approval? Good. Moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Bernard. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all those against? Okay, 5 to 1. Councillor Duran, yea or nay?
In favor.
Okay, 6 to 1. Okay. Cnib presentation. And I have to say first that I know Christine because her and her father and I worked together at Prince Street School. So I'm glad to see Christine here. Christine, can you also introduce who is with you?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to let Joanne kind of introduce herself and just explain what she does with us at CNIB.
Yeah.
So Joanne Hamel, and I work with community engagement with CNIB Foundation. So I work on the side where we do the fundraising, programs, advocacy, and those things for CNIB.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm Christine Arsenal, and I'm the Orientation and Mobility Specialist with Vision Loss Rehabilitation. So we're under the hat of CNIB. We do have our funding, I believe, is government funding, so we're a little bit different than the foundation side. We provide services to our clients within their communities. So I travel the island. And so what we're kind of here today to talk about with you guys is just accessibility for islanders with mobility issues. So that's something I do. I brought a white cane. I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen a white cane before, but this is the way most of our clients get around. Other than that, it would be with a guide dog or with a guide with vision. So with mobility, I teach our clients to go out into the community and use different types of landmarks, sounds, cues to get around. So accessibility is a big thing for us. So what I have kind of put together is just some pictures of like some different intersections, some different places that I think, we could use some accessibility. So before I get started, I think we only have about 10, 15 minutes of your time. So I'm going to try to go through this. But before I get started, a few years ago, AMI, so AMI, Accessibility Media, our corporation, they had reached out and they do talk shows, TV shows for people with different disabilities all across Canada. They reached out to me about 8 years ago and they asked for us to talk about how accessible PEI was at that time. And I had to decline them. They were going across Canada talking about accessibility, and I had to decline them because I didn't feel at that time we were accessible in any way. Since then, Scott has started working with you guys, and tactile indicators have gone in. We've seen changes in intersections, which help our clients. And when I say my clients, I'm talking about people who are blind, people who are visually impaired, people who are deaf-blind, and then also people who are blind or visually impaired in wheelchairs. So I have to picture like at these intersections or different places downtown in Charlottetown, I have to picture all of these people, right, under my hat. So if we want to go, I have to, page 1 actually. So basically what I want to talk to you guys is like better accessibility for our clients in the city of Charlottetown. And mind you, thinking of all those people under that I talked about. I want to discuss audible pedestrian push buttons with you guys, proper placement of pedestrian push buttons, and then the tactile indicators. So over the years, like I said, tactile indicators have been going in. You guys, I'm not sure if you guys recognize what those are, but they're the yellow plates that have been placed, maybe all down Kensington Road. There's been a few that have been put in here in the Charlottetown area. So on, I believe it's page 8, I have a picture of those yellow ones there. And those ones are really nice, and Scott, I think, could answer more of these some other day. But there are better ones, I think, that could go in. The City of St. John is using some type of a metal one that's holding up a little bit better. So right now, if you were to drive down Kensington Road, these are lifting, they're braking, they're tripping hazards, right? So although they were put there to be accessible, now they're actually a problem.
So what's causing the lift?
So it's our weather, it's the snowplows. And it would be the snowplows and, when they're clearing off the sidewalks. So there are different types. Some of them have dye in them and the dye will run, some of the metal ones. So you have to kind of look around and find what works best. The cost is probably part of the thing also. But I know that in St. John, they did put in some that were, I don't know what type of material they are, but they've lasted years, 3 or 4 years. Whereas like our yellow ones are going in and they're not holding up the winter, right? So that's a cost thing too, right? So if we could see something better that's not going to cause that tripping hazard. So if you go back to page 1, I'm not sure when this intersection would have been built. I tried to think and I couldn't remember, but it's on Woodward Drive and Kensington Road. And I pass this intersection a lot. And I also always look at it, and it's because I have a lot of clients that live at the K Rental Center. And this intersection, I have arrows for you guys. So the crossing that you're looking at is actually the Kensington Road crossing, okay? But the push button at the other side of the street is for Woodward Drive, which is over to the other side. So for our clients with a vision loss or even someone in a wheelchair, what we look at is we want them to have access to that button. We want them to get to the button, push the button, and be able to get back to the crossing, okay? But with this button, it's actually in the wrong position. It's in the wrong place. So a client has to come all the ways over to this Kensington Road crossing, and then they have to either walk or wheel themselves back to the other crossing, the Woodward crossing. So I put arrows there, and if you guys get a chance to go, I suggest you check it out because it is, and it's an older one. So with our clients, yeah, sure.
Yeah, could you just explain that to me again? You say that the press button,
Yeah.
the Woodward sign, you got south, you're saying they got to come across the street to press the button.
So that button that you can see in the picture, it's a pretty dark picture there, but it's like where that pedestrian sign is, the don't walk hand. Right below is a push button.
Yeah.
So that push button is for Woodward. So it's to go across Woodward, but it's actually at the Kensington Road crossing.
Right. So in other words, to go from there and take it across to the graveyard.
Yes, it should be going to across the graveyard. Yeah. So it's actually placed at the wrong spot. And that's what we're going to see a lot of, and that's what you're going to hear me repeat a lot of. And I realize like these are things that are going to take time, we have to work on, but these are the problems that we have. So when you're thinking of someone in a wheelchair, or you're thinking of someone with vision loss, when a button isn't where it's supposed to be, and you've been taught how to locate these buttons, how to get across the street properly by using sound if you have no vision. And then all of a sudden you get up there and there's no button to be found, then you're standing at an intersection with nowhere to go.
Right.
Right? So I'm gonna actually get you to turn to page 2. And here's a little bit clearer of a picture. And this is the crossing. So as you can see, there's a pole with the push button right there, up front and forward there. And that push button is for Kensington Road. But if you guys look at the bottom, it says Kensington Road crossing, and you can see where the crossing is. So that button is like quite far away from where it's supposed to be.
What happened there, Scott?
I think it's before Scott's
Oh,
time.
yeah. All these ones are before our time.
Yeah.
Typically what happens is, it just depends where they're running the wires underground, and, you know, back even 10, 20 years ago, a lot of this research on accessibility wasn't out there. The good work that these folks do wasn't out there getting the message out. Now, when we look at any of our newer intersections, these accessibility standards are part of the design principles when we go to design.
So we just have to update what we...
As we go, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you know, for some of these things, like if the pole's in the wrong place, and I think Scott would know a little more about this than myself, but if the pole's in the wrong place, then that's where we would put in a half ped pole. So that means that it's just a single pole that's put in the proper location, that's just, you know, yay high, and the button is put on there so that people can press it. So that's just one of many intersections. I have a few others, and we'll quickly go through. So this one is, and I travel up and down Kensington Road a lot, so I'm going to pick on Kensington Road. But the next one here is Kensington Road and Exhibition Drive.
Yeah.
So in the bottom picture, as you can see, there's that tactile indicator. There's a surface there for it to be on, but it goes to nowheres. So you have people, seniors in that area, you have people with vision loss, you have people in wheelchairs. I could go on about how many people with disabilities in that area. And when they get over there, when they cross to get over there to that gas station, there's no sidewalk. There's nowhere for them to go. They'd have to step off the back of that, over that curb, and into that parking lot. So if you imagine a wheelchair trying to do that on their own, or a person who has no vision trying to get across to that little landing and then figure out where to go from there.
So if I may, Christine, so that would almost send a person out to the middle of the intersection?
Yeah, basically is what that's going to do, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you would not know that you have to go.
And they would not know. And they would get across there, and they would be on that tactile indicator knowing what that's doing for them. And then they would be looking for either a sidewalk, a button to push, or a way to get over. And so, you know, you might have someone young who could find the curb, the grass, go across the grass and over that curb. But you get a senior with vision loss, or you get someone in a wheelchair, that's a different story.
So, like, but for that particular one, that would be somewhat of an easier fix, right? It's only a matter of turning the pad.
Yeah,
To cement
it would be,
block.
it's just like giving them somewhere to go from there.
Yeah.
So
And
if
then-
we're trying to direct them into like even and I don't know how easy this would be, but even having a sidewalk that goes to the end of that grass line.
Yeah.
So that,
Sure.
just get them somewhere where that's going to go, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Bernard, you were Chair of Public Works. That intersection at Exhibition and Kensington Road, that was put in by the province, was it not? I think that was. And same with the intersection of Woodward and Kensington. They were provincial,
No.
the city put them
Kensington
in?
Road is provincial.
What?
Kensington Road.
I know that,
City.
yeah, but I don't, can we find out?
It's
Yeah,
their
we must
main,
put that in.
it was always their main route for plows and so on, but like they own the main arteries of the city. I'm thinking it might have been cost share because our streets intersected.
Yes, we do. But I know it was a commitment from the MLA from the area that to commit to both of them. And not to put blame anywhere, but I think
That's what it was. I think it was a cost share agreement.
And I think we have to correct it now as a city, corporation, correct, Mr.?
Well, that's the reason why
Yeah.
I thought it was great to have them in, is,
Yeah.
I mean, just to give us an education on really where we are
Issues.
with this. It's, we got a long ways to go, but as we move forward over time, we can
That
practice.
intersection was done quite a few years ago.
Oh, it was.
So I mean, I appreciate you coming in and showing us the things that need to be changed. I mean, who picked up on this stuff?
I did.
Yeah, yeah. So like, and that's like another thing is when you come to the winter time, that gets covered in. So then you have an intersection crossing with nowhere to go.
I know.
So like, there's a lot of problems with these little spots. And I mean, I understand like that these things take time, but we have to, like we said, we have to kind of pick at things and slowly start to change them. Somebody is going to get hurt because of the way that they've learned to get or need to get across, and then they fall upon something like this, right? So if you guys want to just turn to the next page, and Sky, this is your baby, I think. Like, you worked really hard on this, and this is a beautiful intersection.
Yes.
So, but I do have
Poles
one
painted
thing.
black.
So this is the Great George Street and Ken Street intersection. It's beautiful. But I do have one thing, the flower beds. So as a wheelchair user or a person who's visually impaired, to get to those push buttons, they have to walk over your flower beds. I watched someone with sight, probably just a tourist or whatever last week when I was taking the pictures, and they walked over the flower bed to press the button. So I guess the intersection is great, the flower beds have to go. So we have to decide what we want.
But that would be where one of those to pull the half.
Or you can do that as well, yeah. It's just finding the spot in that area,
Yeah.
because that's a,
We try to.
Yeah.
The challenge is all the underground utilities there. Yeah, we had designed for, at all the corners, those half poles for the secondary leg, I guess, for lack of a better word. Unfortunately, there's maritime electric bell line all within those
And
areas.
is district heat under there too?
District heat, yeah. We could not put our poles literally anywhere that was acceptable.
Wow.
and Scott and I have talked about this before, and
On
so
the Kent
we
Street there,
actually,
Mr. Kelly.
sorry. Scott and I had talked about the bottom right corner, bottom right-hand picture there. And like that push button, the way it's angled, so the way our clients learn to cross the street is we use sounds, right? Because our vision's limited or non-existent. And so when we're crossing a street, those push buttons, if they're properly placed on a pole, you would walk up to that pole, you find the pole with your cane, you find the button with your hand, you place your arm on the button, and that now tells you what direction you're going, okay? So with this one, because of it, the placement of it, and I know we've discussed this, Doc, but because of the placement of it, when a client locates that, and especially like it could be a client from the island or it could be a tourist, when they find that, they're going to place their arm on it and they're going to go directly out into traffic. Yeah. And so the techniques that we use here to locate those push buttons and then for our clients to teach them, those are being used all over the world. So it's not like, it's not like it's something that's done here and we can just change it. It's done everywhere. So someone who's learning mobility in BC, someone who's learning mobility down in the States, when they come here, they're going to use the same techniques. So that one would put them out in the middle of the street.
So theoretically, Christine, these temporary posts that you're talking about, they're supposed to be so many feet from the intersection.
Yeah.
So that when you're trained, okay, when I push the button, 7 steps, I should be at this curve. Right, for
Exactly.
6 steps.
So you would be, in the downtown core, you would be looking for the pole, which might be either it's on your right or it's on your left, depending. You've learned that area, but for people, tourists, it wouldn't be, they would have already had those skills. But you locate with your cane, then you find the button, and then you know what way you're going. So, yeah, so if I get you guys to go to the next page. So then on Kent Street and Queen Street, now I know the push buttons have been placed on all the poles downtown, and I get a good giggle out of watching people push buttons that don't work. So, and I realize that the signals, crosswalk signals work with the lights, but I'm not sure why the buttons are on there if the lights control it. But my kick at the end of the day is like, this intersection actually has a sign to use it. But for someone who's visually impaired or blind, that's a no-go. So they're just pushing all the buttons. So that's another thing. And I watch people push them all the time. So, it's something we have to kind of figure out, like, do we want those push buttons? Do we not want them? Maybe do we want to upgrade them? Because I think, and I'm not sure, Scott, you could probably agree with me, but they're way behind time. Whether, I don't know, are those push buttons be 20 years behind?
These ones?
Depends which intersection you're in.
Yes, yeah, so, yeah. So we have some that are behind.
Queen and Kent, are they behind Scott? I thought? Actually, those buttons are much more user-friendly for people that have arthritis, because the ones in Queen on Kent and Great George, your finger has to go in, and people have said to me, they should be
They
similar.
shouldn't be like
all
that either, yeah, yeah. I guess what I see at some point is if you turn to page 8, now, not necessarily, this is just a picture I pull off online, but I would like to see us slowly start to put these types of pedestrian push buttons in. These have, whether they have tactile, they have sound, they have vibrations. So you're covering all your disabilities when you have those. Of course, there's cost involved, and so it's not something you're just gonna jump into. But if we started doing it and, add to it as we go, that's what we should be working towards.
These are the ones we'll be well worth having.
Yeah.
Pick those ones, yeah.
And like the audio, like to have audio, whether it be the melody, the chirp, like to have that kind of stuff, for someone who's blind or visually impaired crossing the street, that's just one extra thing, because nowadays we have cars that don't make noise, we're running into all these other issues. So the skills that we've taught them over the years of using sound to cross has now been slowly eliminated by the new technology that's out there. So to have these pedestrian audio cross signals, then what happens is, the speaker, on a lot of them, the speaker will lead the client out to the middle, and then the speaker at the other side drags them back over across the street. So the sound source helps them get from one side to the other. So it's just something to think about. I just want to take you back to one last one, actually two maybe, possibly. So on page 6, we have, so that's the intersection of Grafton and Great George. It's a T intersection. It's a horrible intersection. I have people that aren't even my clients that have vision loss have stopped me there while I've been working with clients to tell me how horrible it is. That button is so far away. I guessed it's approximately 12 feet from the crosswalk. So if you can imagine being in a wheelchair and going 12 feet down, pressing the button, coming back 12 feet with vision loss in a wheelchair, coming back 12 feet, and realigning yourself at the crosswalk to get across. It's quite difficult. So that is something else that we have to look at, is those, and I know that it's wiring underneath, and I hope that there's other cities out there that probably have old wiring and problems like that as well, and I hope that somebody has already kind of set the way and knows how to deal with that stuff, and maybe we can slowly work on it too. And I don't know with the Confederation Trail, the next picture down, I'm not sure if the city has anything to do with the push buttons that were put down there. Yeah, okay. So in that picture, so when we drive, we always drive on the right side of the road. So when we are working with our clients, we tell them, traffic, whether it's mobile or it's foot traffic, you travel on the right side. So same as if you're in school, you walk on the right side of the hall and the other people walk on the right side of the hall. So there's no traffic jams, right? So it's really interesting, the Confederation Trail and the push buttons have been put in because they're not all placed in the same spot. So at this one spot, it's down by Bibles for Mission, I think.
It's on Allen Street.
Yeah, on Allen Street, thank you, yeah. So the push buttons are on the opposite side. So as you're biking or walking down on your right-hand side of the Confederation Trail, people are walking or biking past you. You now have to cross over in front of traffic, push the button, then cross back over and get in your own traffic lane. So at some spots, they're put on the right poles. So, down by the university, the buttons are on the poles that they should be on. On Allen Street, they're not. At the next one, I think they're not. So I've tried to kind of watch for these things as I go. It's starting to become fun for myself because there's so many little errors out there, and it's just old equipment put up, right? And it's kind of like, it's something I've been talking about for so long now that I talk about it so much, I have people calling me to tell me the errors that they see out there. So it's becoming more and more of something that's noticeable. And not that it's anyone's fault because it's just old stuff, but we need to update it. Yeah. So I think, and that's basically it. Like I took a little picture there on page 7. There's a picture of like what maybe a half ped pole would look like. And then again, below that is just kind of, it's it says an ideal placement, but this is just offline, but it's just to show you where the poles would be placed, where the tactile indicators would be placed, and then where the crosswalks would be. I guess my only other thing would be, and I talked to the board when I was here a couple months ago, was Queen and Grafton. That intersection has been a mess for a long time, and clients have talked about, you know, near hits and scared to use that intersection, having to walk all the ways around to avoid it. I think if we were going to do anything, that intersection needs to be looked at a bit more, but tactile indicators definitely should be put in there. That's like a #1 thing I would be putting in right away. Because there's no blend, or everything blends, I'm sorry, so there's no like, there's no curb, there's no wheelchair access ramp to allow someone to know that they're at the road, right? So a tactile indicator, at least for people with vision loss, that would help. You know, when I talked to the board a couple months ago, one of the things I said was, you know, when the city goes to plan these intersections, it would be nice to kind of, I know that we can't do what everybody wants because of cost, right? But it definitely would be nice to involve the different types of groups, like whether it be, you know, Cnib, because we work with the blind and visually impaired, maybe another organization that works with wheelchairs, and just see what are the needs and then what can we accommodate.
So, just hitting on that, so how the ladies did come here was simply the standing committee. Sometimes we question our standing committees, but it was them that pushed, you know, to have these girls in. And when I heard this presentation, I was like, holy cow, council's got to hear this stuff. So moving forward, you know, there is a lot of work to be done. And what you were just saying about other committees is exactly what we're doing now. We've had fire in since, you know, we learned an awful lot about, you know, that there is an actual plan on our website through the fire department. It's the same plan as New York City has for evacuation with fire for a person that has a disability. So, but how do you know that? Right? So there's a big, you know, it starts here with communication and it moves forward from there. But I think, you know, having the Canada Games coming, for example, with one of their categories, for folks that are disabled, I would suggest that maybe the University Belvedere corner be one that'd be done as well, because there's nothing there for them to get across the street. So there's a couple right away, the Queen Street one for sure as well. And I think moving forward, it's just something to keep in mind as we go forward with each project, that we keep you know, the disability factor in our site.
Yeah, and you know, like you said, with the Canada Games coming, like I think there's going to be, now I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's like 120 people, different disabilities coming. And you know, really, when I look, I honestly, I believe the PEI has made great like movement forward with accessibility, but we're definitely by far not there. For those people coming to, and it's Charlottetown, it's not just Charlottetown, it's Summerside as well. For them to be getting around and moving freely and independently on their own, it's not going to happen. They're going to have people that are going to take them out because it's not an accessible city. You know, someday I might come back and talk to you guys about the buses, but that's another thing, right? So like, there's so much accessibility that we have to work on, and it's not just our intersections. There's a lot.
Any other questions?
Well, I am curious on the, you call these plates?
Those are tactile indicators.
So, well, Scott's here.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to find out why. Are these deteriorating quickly, or is it soil compounds or rocks? Why would one deteriorate when you're
So they're under warranty after a year, so if they, or 2 years, sorry, they have a 2-year warranty. So if they do deteriorate for whatever reason, they are rated for our snow plows and all that. And if they do, we can pop them out very easily. These are replaceable ones. So these are set in, there's kind of bolts in the bottom that are embedded in the concrete. There's I think four bolts that hold it down. So you can pop them out really easily and replace them. So sometimes if what's happening, if they're deteriorating, and it's some of their earlier ones, our crews and our contractors have gotten much better installing them. The problem was they were leaving them up too high. So what they were doing was they were going, because like those little raised dots, they're about 5 mils, I think, they're off the thing. those are supposed to be flush with actually the sidewalk, with the concrete around it. What was happening was the base plate, that's what they were leveling with. And so our blades were shearing those off, and that was what's causing damage. The newer ones, you're gonna see less damage on it. And the reason why we use these ones versus the other ones are cast iron. Some research is showing in colder climates, they're more fragile and susceptible to breaking. If they're cracked, you have to remove the entire concrete around it. It's a big job to replace all that once it starts to crack, because they're embedded in the concrete. So you got to jackhammer it out, replace the concrete. Where these, you pop 4 little covers, four bolts, put a new one in, and away you go. So long term, it's much more cost effective to use these ones versus the cast iron, as long as they're installed
It was a
correctly.
learning curve for our people.
It was, yep, yes, it was a learning curve for both our folks and our contractors, yes.
So we should know it's different moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think Dieppe actually used those and they found the same problem.
Yeah.
They had all that happen,
Yeah.
right? But St. John used something different,
Okay.
and it wasn't the cast
Not
iron.
cast iron, okay.
No, it was whether it was aluminum or
Okay.
steel,
Mhm.
and they've lasted for a few years, so longer than what these ones would have. I just worry with these clients out there, especially clients that don't have any vision. Like Kensington Road is one I can actually. I know well.
Yeah.
So I have a client that travels that road every day, which you probably
I know.
are aware of.
Yeah.
And when those things lift, if no one notices that they've lifted, that's going to cause an accident. And maybe like you said, there's newer ones out there, or even maybe looking to see what St. John is using. Yeah.
Best practices, peer review.
So if I might make a suggestion, I think it would be a good idea for to stay in close contact now. We got the communication channel open
Yep.
with some recommendations from yourself and working with Public Works, to first fix, there's different processes we can go over, but even the simple thing is painting white lines on crosswalks and stuff, like we take it for granted, oh, well, it's wearing out, but for someone that's blind or partially, they can still see that crosswalk, right?
Yeah.
And it's so many little things that we could be doing.
And I mean, I could rhyme them off forever, but that's only because that's what I'm working with, right? But it's just making people more aware and working towards that. And like I said, this stuff takes time, and we realize that. It's just that it would be nice now that Scott's kind of got the ball rolling with the tactile indicators and the different intersections like the crosswalk that we talked about on Great George, is to see it continue to move forward. And keeping in mind that the games are coming, and that's a big thing there too. Yeah. I mean, if any of you guys at any time, I left my card, and you guys are more than welcome to come on down to an intersection, wear a blindfold and do a crossing with me and see what it's like.
I would trust it.
You volunteer, Councillor McCabe,
I do
are
think
you
that it's
volunteering?
important. No, I'm not, because I know I'd be no.
Okay,
it's
sure.
not. But what I
Second
would
call.
like to see is, because you are familiar with areas that you would deem as kind of your priority around what clients you're working with and stuff, and maybe providing that a list to even all of us, so we're aware of kind of where, so we can push for some of those.
Yes,
top
definitely,
areas to be
yeah.
looked at.
There's some of if I was to get started, I would definitely, Queen would be, and I can provide a list as well through email, but
Kensington
Queen, Kensington Road, these ones that I talked about today, these would be our main ones.
Yeah.
They're highly traveled. Years ago, our clients weren't out traveling on their own independently, and now we're really pushing for that, right? And so the more we can work towards that and get more people out in the community enjoying themselves independently would be what we strive for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Christine,
Yes,
thank you, both of you, thank you very much.
thank you.
And we will be following up right there with our chief engineer, Mr. Adams.
Perfect. All right, thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, stay safe.
Enjoy your
Thanks.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have someone here from Protective and Emergency Services?
No, just have motions.
Just have the resolution. You want to read it out there, sir?
Your worship, moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Duffy, that additional $7,720.34 be allocated to purchase the required licensing and training for the bundled magnet and gray shift software to be purchased from Magnet Forensic. The total cost of $93,135.63 CAD, and that the funding for this purchase was provided to the Federal Funds and Gangs Initiative, worship.
Okay.
Questions called?
Questions called? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor Duran, yea or nay?
In favor.
Okay, sir. You have another
Is it
minister?
7 is this here?
Under public,
Okay, so we don't, that's the only item for that one?
yes, Your Worship.
Okay,
Under
C.
Public Works, there is first the vehicle fleet purchase, and moved by Councillor McLeod, second by Councillor Duffy, that per the conditions of the request of quotations of the 2021 vehicle purchases, the submission of Summerside Chrysler Dodge in the amount of $720,821 plus all applicable taxes be accepted, Your Worship.
Question called? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor Duran, yea or nay?
In favor.
Okay.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor McLeod, second by Councillor Duffy, that as per the conditions of the request for quotations on used asphalt paver 2017 to 2017 to 2019, the submission of J.A. LaRue, Inc. in the amount of $150,950 plus all applicable taxes be accepted.
Question, Your
Questions
Worship?
come? All those in favor?
No, I have a question.
Oh, you do, sorry, there.
Reading the report, and you said that your staff was you rented one this year, I believe, and your staff was very impressed with it. So this is the same model and everything that's going to be taken?
Your Worship, yes, that's correct. It's actually the same one. It was the only bidder that we received, so this unit that was for sale, or for rent, was also for sale. And so that's what they submitted as a bid, so it'll be this one, yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Yep.
Question? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor Duran, yea or nay?
Favor.
Okay.
Your
Next one,
Worship, moved by Councillor McLeod, second by Councillor Duffy, that as per the conditions of the request for proposals on Garfield Street reconstruction, the submission of Island Coastal Services Limited in the amount of $2,189,098.85 plus all applicable taxes be accepted, Your Worship.
Okay. Questions called? You have a question there, Councillor?
Yeah, I want to discuss Early Street.
Okay. So, Mr.
That's not what the resolution says.
I know, but I think,
Well, I brought it up at the start of the meeting,
and
and I asked to discuss it.
yeah, and I think
So
that,
where do I
I think
discuss
you
it?
can, yeah.
I think the chief engineer is here, so
Yeah.
do you want to give us some background?
Certainly. So, Your Worship, so we had two tenders that were tendered at the same time. One was Harley Street, one was Garfield Street. Both reconstruction, similar type work. They both were tendered and closed on the same day. When we received bids from two contractors, both two contractors for each job, same contractors. And for each bid, they put in for that they could do the work on Garfield this year within the time frame that we allotted for this fall. And both of them said that they could only do Harley Street next year. Now, we did reach out to the low bidder of Island Coastal and talked about what if council did decide and want to ask if Harley Street could be done. When we asked them, they said Harley Street is more complicated to work because there's a lot more water and sewer services along Harley Street, plus it's a narrow right of way. But they did say they could commit to doing Harley Street this year, but they also wanted the guarantee of being awarded Garfield Street for the start of next year. Looking at the pricing, talking to our consultant, we did feel that if we're going to wait to do one next year, we would be better off re-tendering next year. Because at this time of year, we know the prices are inflated for this year. Material costs are up this year. And usually late season work costs a little bit more, just either because of schedules, they're trying to fit everything in, or you have to heat your asphalt longer. There's inflated costs for work in the fall. So we believe that if we re-tendered one of the projects next February, March, we'd get a much better price and we'd start in the spring. The tender's already ready, so essentially it's changing dates and re-tendering it at that time. And so based on that, we recommended to the committee, who got back to me via email today, saying that they agreed with the recommendation to do Garfield Street this year and re-tender Harley, because, like I say, Island Coastal, the low bidder, said that they would only do Harley this year if they were guaranteed Garfield.
Scott, could I ask, Harley Street's been on the books for how many years? What's that?
2 years ago is when the fire
No,
happened,
let's
if I
hear
remember
it.
correctly, 2019, if I want to, I think it was 2019 when it was supposed to be done.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's 3 years, okay. Counselor, or 2 years, go ahead.
It's in the budget. The only tendered towards the latter part of July, right? It could have been tendered long before that. It wasn't. And now the residents on this street are furious. They're furious that not only was it, they thought the job was supposed to be done in July, and now we're going to tell them it's not going to be done until next year. They're not going to accept that. And I would suggest, no disrespect to Garfield Street, but it's more of a priority. With all the people living in Harley Street, that place is populated with people living on Harley Street. I don't think it's funny, Councilor McLeod.
Oh, your statement's funny.
No, I don't believe it.
No,
is.
just state,
You might think it's funny.
Counselor
Right,
Twill,
yeah.
question.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's funny at all.
Counselor
So
Twill,
the people
let's just
living on that
finish.
street,
Yeah.
living on that street, were told the last 3 or 4 years that the job was going to be done. When the fire happened, they said, fine, we'll be patient, and pretty much guaranteed that it was going to be done the following year. So, the money's in the budget, now it's not going to get done. And I don't think that's fair to the people living on that street. It's a narrow street, there's a lot of traffic on that street. People can't commute up and down that street safely, it's dangerous. Had the police there a number of times, and to suggest that we'll do it next year is not fair.
So,
It's not fair to the people living on Harley Street.
Mr. Adams, could you just explain again, is the contractor able to do both projects?
Not this year.
And what was the response on the 2 projects? To start, what project do they want to start first?
So originally, when tenders were received, they would start Garfield this year, and and that was both contractors said they would start Garfield this year if they were awarded the work, and do Harley next year if they were awarded.
And it will be done.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Councillor McKay.
I have 2 questions. So how much, it says it's over budget. How much over budget is it this year?
I would have to double check my numbers there.
What do the numbers say in the package? Are they in the package?
No, it doesn't give the quote.
No?
It doesn't
Okay.
tell.
They don't take money for one project.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, is that why,
They
or?
don't have money for both projects.
Okay, and what about the criteria in deciding what street, like, why, and I'm just wondering, like, why Garfield over Harley?
So for your worship, for the folks, for contractors, Harley Street is a narrow right of way. There's a lot more water and sewer underground services that they're trying to cram in. I can't recall if it's temporary water services, but potentially there is, just because of how narrow the roadway is. So because there's more utilities trying to work around each other, trying to get everything in the ground, it takes longer. So it's a lot more work. I think they predicted, I want to say something like, I think their original schedule was about 90 days to do the work. So it's quite a substantial amount of work to do Harley Street, where Garfield, I think it was 60 days, starting in September, to do the work. And again, it's just a lot of the utilities connecting to the sewer, the water and sewer, like replacing the laterals up to the homes and apartment buildings. So that's a lot of work. And digging those all out, finding them, replacing them, and backfilling, yeah. It's
And
substantial
the
work.
tender just closed?
They closed, I forget the date, but it is in the tender, or it should be in the information
And it was
there.
gonna be 90 days from,
Yeah,
from August 11th.
August.
yeah.
Councillor Ramsey?
Yes.
Is that all right, Councillor McKay? Did you have another question?
No, I just think that that's too late to close a tender for a 90-day project, if we're worried about keeping asphalt and stuff going moving forward in the future, that's a little late to close a tender for any street, if it's that big of a project.
Right.
My question, Your Worship, thank you, Scott, is that if there's still going to be, the sewer monitor got to do any work in Garfield Street,
So
as
it's,
much as you have to do on Harley Street, I guess, because there is businesses and everything out there too.
yeah.
So I just wondered.
So for Garfield Street, how they would do it is they lay in the new pipe alongside the old pipe. Then they charge the new line, get it all cleaned up, make it to current safety and standards, and then they connect the services there. So there's very minimal disruption to any of the local places.
But Harley would be the opposite.
Harley Street, I believe there was temporary water on that, yes. Similar to Pond Street, there's temporary water on Pond Street, and that's because we're working within a very narrow footprint. So you can't put the new lines in beside the old ones, there's just no room to do it.
Okay.
Did we do Pond Street this year?
This week, starting this week.
So just, Councillor Ramsey, I don't know if you, no, Councillor McCabe asked the question, so street rehabilitation, Harley Street, 600,000, that was the gas tax.
So that's just the public work portion.
Yeah.
There's 500,000. for
Then there was
water.
500,000 under
Yeah,
capital projects under water. Harley Street, another 500 from gas tax. So 1.1 million.
that's correct, yeah.
So we're over,
I believe tax.
it's 2.1, so we're over $1 million.
Yeah. Prices have gone up substantially. Yeah.
What's that?
That's what I was saying, no.
Yeah, it's over $1 million. So it was originally budgeted for 1.1 from water and sewer and public works. Now this combined, this figure now is 2.2 million.
Is water and sewer doing any work on
They have
Harley
to.
Street this year?
So the water and sewer, not this year, no. If we don't award the work, we won't be doing any water and sewer on Harley Street, no.
Wait, so you're going to do the work and then come back next year to do the...
No,
If
no.
Harley Street was to be done?
If we award Garfield Street tonight, water and sewer and public works work will be done on Garfield Street
Right.
only.
Right.
And then wait to retender for Harley Street.
Okay, last question there, Councillor. Tweel.
90 days to do the work. So it was intended, back in the spring when the budget was passed,
Yeah.
we waited all kinds of time to do the work, all kinds of time. So that wasn't done. Residents were told the job was going to be done in July. And now, we're going to tell the residents, no, the work's not getting done. So who's going to tell the residents, we're going to do Garfield over Harley? Who's going to do that?
This resolution, when it's passed tonight, they'll know.
Oh, is that right?
It's a public meeting.
So what about the residents that were told the work was going to be done in July? That it was going to be done this year. It's been on the books for the last 4 or 5 years. Why is Garfield being done over Harley? Why?
He'll tell you again. Just last time, can you explain it?
Again, the contractors have said that they would do Garfield this street, or again, we would have to award both contracts tonight for Harley and Garfield to get Harley done this year.
I say we
But
do
we don't
both.
recommend it because we believe that we will get a better price next year for Harley Street.
And just for guesstimation, if we awarded both tonight, you would be looking at what, 4 million?
Somewhere in that range,
And what
yes.
did we budget for both? 1.1, and if I look at the budget here. for-
Probably 2.5, 3, somewhere in that range for both, yeah.
Yeah, so Garfield is 500,000 under water and sewer.
Maybe
And
2.6.
on the street rehabilitation, it was, Garfield, where is that at, Mr.? Street rehabilitation. I have. So, Wade, both projects were under budgeted, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
But when we budgeted for the budget,
Oh, yeah.
what's the amount there, Mr. Kelly, for street rehabilitation for Garfield?
$1 million for sure.
Oh, so it'd be 1.5,
Yeah, for Garfield, 1.5
For
was
Garfield.
Garfield, yeah.
And 500,000 under the utility version.
yeah. So my mistake, what was in the budget was 1.5 million. I gave you the Hurley Street numbers, which was a
1.1 version.
1.1, this is 1.5, and the resolution is for 2.2 million, so we're off by 700,000, correct?
For one street.
For one street.
And that budget was for 2 streets?
No, for both streets, it was 1.5
Yeah.
plus 1.1, 2.6 million.
That's why we said we're over budget.
Yeah.
We want to do more profit. But I mean, you know what, I look at it, one, you have to borrow the extra money. 2, you're gonna be, they say November, if you're into December, you're into Christmas, roads all tore up, water tore up. Well, they can put the tenders in the fall, and for spring start.
I understand where you're coming from, Councillor Tweel. I know that the budget was passed before March 31st for the capital budget. And now we are here at August 24th, and we're just awarding the tender. So last question to the chief engineer there, Councillor Tweel.
No, I can't buy the arguments because the budget was passed, right?
Yeah.
They knew how long it was going to take to do this job. I'm not an engineer. but he just said 90 days. So if you knew 90 days, then the tender should have went out back in the spring. It's all right, it's great to stand up here and say, well, we're gonna do
I'm not
it next
disagreeing with
spring.
that,
So,
Ken.
okay.
Just one second.
So the point is-
Let him finish.
the point
Let him
is-
finish.
Okay, but the point is, right, that's been 4 to 5 years in the making. Okay, when we had the fire, the residents said, fine, we'll be patient. Senior management, you said it yourself, Mr. Kelly, and Mr. Adams, you said, don't want to do the job, we don't want to do the job because of fire, and all the heavy equipment that's going to come in there to do the apartment building all over again, 4-story building. So the residents were patient. Okay, it's inexcusable to suggest now we're going to do the job next year. Okay, it's inexcusable.
Well, to sum this up, the chief engineer,
I know
Public
what you-
Works will guarantee next year, 2022, Hurley Street will be done.
As long as it's budgeted for in the.
Yes or no? If it's in the budget,
If
it
it's in the
will.
budget, yes, because it's tender ready and.
Councillor Twill, you've already said, I understand your piece.
You know what? Same thing can be said for Passmore Street, sidewalks. 2 years to
Yeah,
make
but
it.
that's-
No, the point I'm trying to make, your worship, is that I want to know why some projects are getting approved and some aren't getting approved.
He
There
al-
seems to be a double standard, and I'm going to tell you right now, your worship, there seems to be discrimination going on
Well,
there.
we've already been told by our
That
chief,
is-
no, hold on, our chief engineer.
I know.
So the question's been called?
The resolution on the floor, right?
Question's been called?
Yeah, so let's,
Okay. All those in favor of the resolution, please put up your hand for the resolution for 2.2 million. Councillor Bernard, yea or nay? Yea? McLeod? Yeah. Councillor Drawn, yea or nay?
No.
Okay, Councillor Twill?
Absolutely not.
Council carried by 5 to 2.
So, good question for you, Mr. Mayor. Who's going to go out there and tell the residents why this project's not getting done? Who's doing that?
Well, the chief engineer has just mentioned.
Okay, he's
the
going to
chief-
go knock on the doors and tell
Well,
them?
no, he's told here, this is a live stream meeting.
I know it's a live stream
and
meeting,
people
but not
can.
everybody watches the
Well, no,
meeting,
but
Mr.
people
Mayor.
can get the minutes
So is he
through.
going to go out there and knock on the doors and
I'm
tell
not
people
gonna,
why the job's
I'm not
getting
gonna
done?
ask him to,
Why not?
because I don't think it's his job. I
Oh,
think
okay,
people.
it's not his job, okay.
Yeah.
So it must be my job to put the tenders in, is it?
Twill and. Okay,
I do agree that there's some of these projects, we can't defer forever and ever and ever though.
No,
sure you
That's why I
can.
asked.
the chief engineer has made a promise that the budget passed for 2022, 2023 has in it Hurley Street. It will be done, correct, sir?
If approved by council at time of budget.
It will be done.
uh.
Yes, it's fine.
Maybe one of the questions to be asked is, why rush the tenders out?
Yeah, and that's great, a great question, Counselor. So what ended up happening again, because we originally started back in 2019, we were working with CBCL, and really it was just trying to get them to get the drawings and everything finalized. Back in 2020, when they start taking on new projects for other work, their schedule starts filling up and up quickly, and so they had to fit this project within their existing schedule. And as everyone knows, PEI is booming this year. Every engineering firm is just out flat busy. So really, it was just the resources at the end of the day, trying to get the tender documents and the final design all completed. Because back in 2019, we did put a hiatus on it, of course. So we had to do a design review again this year and get the tender documents ready. So it does take some time.
So why would
Really,
they?
in actual fact, when the budget's passed in April, then there's work that has to be for the tenders to go out. Design work, like you said, there's a number of things that have to be done before they send the tender out.
Yeah.
So,
So just to summarize, Mr. Adams, can your department just look at a notification that could go out to these residents that if approved by next year's budget is approved with Hurley Street, it will be done?
We can come
Can we
up
do
with
that?
I can work with Mr. Kelly and then
With the
draft up the letter to
communications?
go out. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we have to move on.
I understand.
Yeah.
What about the state of the street now? Well, it's a disaster.
We'll make,
What about now?
we'll make some improvements on it, correct?
What are we gonna
We
do?
will do some repair work
Yeah.
for the year.
Okay, sir, we just have to go on. Mr. Kelly,
We
just
have,
be-
sorry,
do we have,
legal's next door, Your Worship, we have to break at 6 o'clock if we can.
so we have,
To move into
Stephen, we have
closed
to go
session.
into a closed session because we have some,
We just get to one more resolution, don't we?
we have two.
There's also the enterprise fee. so we
You want to
just
go
have
through them
deal with that
quickly?
first.
You don't want to defer enterprise and come back to another time?
Or
Very
Can
quick.
we-
You have
can we
discussion
defer?
too, or do you-
Defer.
They're all straightforward, next to
Change
it.
resolutions up.
Your worship?
Okay,
Read those two.
switch program, let's go with it.
No, boiler system
we're
first.
on the utility, your worship, that's the
Sorry,
next
D.
one, D.
Go ahead, please, read it. That should be an easy one.
Yeah.
Your worship, moved by Councillor Drawn, second by Councillor Duffy, that as per the conditions of the tender, CPCP boiler number 2 replacement, the submission of island gas and combustion in the amount of $366,130 plus applicable taxes be accepted, your worship.
Questions called.
Questions called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Councillor Duran, yea or nay?
In favor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, next one, sir, do you want to go
Worship,
to
is
utility, environment sustainability
Sustainability.
switch
Yes.
program?
Your worship, moved by Councillor Trio, second by Councillor Bernard, that the following resolution approved on July 12, 2021 be rescinded, that the switch program policy as attached be approved, and that the City of Charlottetown sign the Federation of Municipalities funding agreement that will provide 0% interest financing and grant monies for the switch program administration to the city and its partners, and further that the switch program be officially launched on July 15th, 2021. So that's to retract that one, Your Worship, and then there'll be another one for the fall.
Questions called.
Questions come, great program.
Just to be clear, your worship, so they know.
Yes, sir?
This is money coming from FCF, not to the money, it's used for 0% funding for people who want to operate and, go to grant.
And last week I was out to the information session, 40 people were there. They have 600 openings for this money, 600. So we're doing our part to promote climate change is a real issue and we have to reduce our carbon footprint.
So we're just rescinding this one, right?
So we're
Yeah,
saying.
we're sending this.
Yeah.
All those in favor to rescind the following motion, please put up your hand. Councillor Duran, yea or nay?
In favor.
Okay.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Trio, second by Councillor Bernard, that the switch program policy as attached be approved and that the City of Charlottetown sign a funding agreement with the Federation of Municipalities, FCM, entitled Green Municipal Fund Loan and Grant Agreement, the loan agreement, for the purposes of enabling eligible property owners to finance energy efficiency, renewable energy, electric car chargers, water use, water conservation installations, or water and sewer lateral replacements to qualifying properties in the City of Charlottetown. And that the loan agreement includes both a grant and loan to the City of Charlottetown. The principal amount said loan to be the lesser of $7,219,522. B, 56.86 of eligible cost, and C, net cost incurred for qualifying energy upgrades, Your Worship, and that further that by entering the loan agreement, the City of Charlottetown will not exceed its debt limit. The loan is at an interest rate as further outlined in Section 4 of the loan agreement and shall be amortized over 240 months. The loan shall be repaid to the FCM in equal consecutive semi-annual installments. Therefore, be resolved that the mayor and CEO be authorized to sign the loan agreement and any documentation to affect the loan agreement, Your Worship.
Okay. Is that all clear?
Questions called.
All those in favor, please put up your hand. Councillor Cloud? Councillor Drawn?
In favor.
Okay.
So, your worship, the last one's enterprise fleet, and I think we all heard the presentation, I'm not sure.
I think there's a resolution, is there not? Huh?
But yeah, I heard
It's
some of that.
here for council's input. Staff have a presentation or to respond to the questions asked. They wanted to clarify those points. And it's okay with you guys. Again, we do have our solicitors next door that we are
Well,
paying.
to me, it's going to take a minute. We had it twice. We had it in our packets. I know I'm not in finance, but it makes 100% sense. If you don't like it, you can get it.
Yeah. Well,
The vehicles will be about local.
I can tell you, I'm not in favor of it, but I don't have a vote unless there's a tie because it's about local purchase. And they told us,
It's in the contract.
I know, but they told us very clearly at the meeting when they came here, look, it's about local, let's buy local. That's where I'm at. Councillor Duffy and I disagreed about it at Finance Committee and also Public
But
Works.
we're buying local.
Yeah, well, to them, to the Peter McDonald's and the McClellans that own the car dealerships here in Charlottetown that make up $810,000 in property taxes, they don't agree with us. So that's my opinion.
I think, but their question, Your Worship, was, are they going to buy loans? But the answer is no, yes. Is it going to be service loans?
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Are we saving money? The city will save $180,000 a year. So they're still getting the vehicle bought, they're still getting the vehicle service.
Yeah.
So we need to know, right?
Yeah, well, I go back to their presentation, they didn't see it that way, they see
They didn't
it.
have all the information.
Well, they didn't reach back to us because they said, look, guys, we fought long and hard for establishing our business here in the city of Charlottetown. We are committed to our city, we're committed not only to selling cars, servicing cars, but also sponsoring our community. And it's like that, is it racketing? The bonus points, the more you buy, the more you save, or the more you can get bonus points. To me, this is the same thing. You have to buy more to get the savings.
Tonight, our chair of finance isn't here either. I don't think we should come.
Yeah, but
Your worship, you're doing the bid, point of order, you're doing the bidding of one side of it.
No, no.
Yes, you were.
No.
You've
We've discussed that, you and I. We've discussed it and argued over it.
You're supposed to be neutral.
I am neutral on it. I am, and I've made my position very clear at both standing committees.
But the worship, and it's been present the last few years, but I mean, if you look at the last tender, I think we've had one person, one organization put a bid in.
Drive around the parking lots and see what's in.
But that hasn't been just this year, that's been over the last few years.
Yeah, no, it's more this year.
Scott,
Anyways.
you can probably tell us what the vehicles, what the,
Tenders?
how many tenders that have
We
gone
had,
on?
since I've started, the only people that have submitted bids, and this is coming on 5 years, is Reliable Motors and Somerset Chrysler Dodge. Has been the only people that bid on our vehicles since 2017.
Anyway, I think that if you take a vote on it now, we know it's going to be
Yep.
talked about something.
That's it. So is there a resolution to present, Mr. Kelly?
So we just had, the intent was to provide council with additional information that they have requested. So that is here in the report. And then we are awaiting council's direction. If you wish, we will bring back a motion.
I'll move a motion that we go through enterprise.
You want to go ahead with that? Motion's on the floor.
I'll second it.
Seconded. Okay. Questions called?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor to go with the enterprise leasing, is it enterprise leasing option, correct?
Fleet management.
Enterprise fleet management proposal. Please put up your hand.
Can I ask a question here?
Go ahead.
So, okay, so staff have answered some of the concerns that the Automobile Dealer Association had. Have they been made aware of these changes or answers to their questions?
Yes, they have.
Have they been made aware?
Yes.
And have we had any feedback?
I haven't.
From the,
Association.
no, I haven't heard anything from them.
They were sent the report last week.
Okay, thank you very much.
We met last week, right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of going with the enterprise fleet management proposal, raise your hand.
And just, your worship,
Nope.
so it's clear, everybody knows, the clause is there.
Yeah, we know that.
We can get out at any time.
Raise your hand if you're in favor. Okay, so I have Councillors McLeod, Ramsey, Duffy, Bernard, and am I missing someone? And yep, and Councillor Duran, yea or nay?
Not in favor. Thank you.
Councillor Twill, yea or nay?
No.
Councillor McCabe?
No.
4-3. Okay, so the resolution passes 4-3. Okay, that ends the open session, correct? Do we have anything else?
No, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Chief Engineer. Okay. Okay, I need a motion to move into a closed session as per section 119, subsection 1E and 119(2)B of the Municipal Government Act. Moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Duffy. All those in favor, please put up your hand. Councillor Twill, yea or nay? Going into a closed session.
No.
No? Councillor Drawn, yea or nay?
Can I have excuse for a second, Your Worship?
Councillor Duran, yea or nay?
Whoa.